All right. And let me do this. All right, so I will share my screen. Hypothetically. Okay, great. Just want to make sure it's the right screen. Okay, guys, you should see a slideshow. Max, can you give me a audio, yes or no?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, guys, I'm going to go through this real quick and then we'll get into TradeMachine. I thank everyone for joining us today. We will be doing these twice a week, once on Tuesdays during market hours. And there's my alarm that this should be happening. And once on Thursdays after market hours, because we know different people have different schedules. And then you can talk to Max, who I'll introduce later, every day anyway, just not on video. Okay, so disclaimers. The results here are provided for general information purposes as a convenience to you, the viewers. The materials are not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person, firm, or corporation. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell any security, nor is it ever. This is not advice. And past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Last session, we talked about a trade called spread the sell-off. It's a very particular type of trade, which was multi-legged. It was ratio, so it's probably the most complex thing you could do with options. We kind of started there, and I said last session, the next sessions are like tautologically going to be easier because it's just not that complicated of a strategy. But when we looked at spread the sell-off, we looked at how it did in tech, roughly speaking, the NASDAQ 100, and in financials. And I wanted to point out with Max that, a lot of people do a lot of tech trades, and that's great. I do too. But there's other areas where you can find opportunities, option traders. As option traders, we're looking for short bursts of risk, and we're kind of willing to take it wherever, as long as the odds are in our favor. It doesn't have to be tech. So today, as I promised, we're going to look at something called buy the sell-off plus AI. So again, we're still in this kind of sell-off mode. And then next session, we're going to get out of this kind of when the market's bearish, and we're going to get to where the market's bullish. But it's just, we'll start when the market's going down, not really the market, when a stock is going down, and then we'll move further. And in this session, I'm going to look at tech, I'm going to look at financials, and I'm going to look at healthcare. So I didn't look at healthcare last time because I didn't want to overwhelm everyone. But ultimately, what I really want to empower you guys to do is to show you how easy it is to find strategies using TradeMachine, but also to really broaden your horizon, right? It doesn't just have to be in names you recognize. It can be if you want it to be. I'm not telling you what you have to do, but it is my job to show you as a guide what you can do if you want to look in areas that are less familiar. And in truth, in life, and particularly in trading, fighting the urge to make everything that's unfamiliar look familiar, that's kind of how you win. That's the E, that's the effort. I talk about process, patience, and effort. The E really comes to that. Say, hey, this is unfamiliar to me. And then you have a decision tree. Do I go towards something that is familiar to me, or am I willing to traverse the path that says, this actually isn't that familiar to me, but let me just check it out. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to stop with the slideshow. I promised you it was short. And now I'm going to just share my TradeMachine. All right. And I'll go to the Today tab. Okay, so we will cover the Today tab in great depth in other sessions. I'll just give the quick overview. If you're new to TradeMachine, or even if you're not, if you don't want to set alerts, don't have time to set alerts, and you're just looking for something that has back-tested results that are active on the day, this is what the Today tab is. It says, of these millions of alerts that we're setting, what are the ones that are happening right now? Okay. And a new feature we've added is we're letting you know the ones that are driven by our AI algorithms. Okay. But I don't want to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about the backtest tab. So last session, what I pointed out, and what Max and I pointed out, is that if you go to the saved backtest, this is a new feature too, the saved backtest drop-down menu, there's a bunch of strategies that are already built into TradeMachine that you can use. Right? You don't have to use them, and you can add to this list. You can add as many as you like, your own personal strategies. But every TradeMachine member has this. It starts with the letters CML. That's our company, Capital Market Laboratories. Last time we looked at spread the sell-off, the most complex strategy we have. So it doesn't always have to be that complex. Today, we're going to look at buy the sell-off with AI. So this is how you do it. You click on it and you say load. It will load a ticker. So just give the machine a second. Let it load the ticker. Great. Once you've loaded the ticker, go to the back test period you're interested in. I like to do 3 years. Max likes to do 3 years as well. He also likes to do shorter periods as I do. Okay, but I'm not really interested in Amazon. What I'm interested in is seeing when this strategy works across a large swath of companies. Before I do that, let's at least understand what this thing is, right? We're going to look at it and find you're going to leave today with dozens of alerts if you want, dozens of trades set up for 2024 that are just going to come to your inbox or your phone. But okay. Before we do that, we might as well figure out, understand what am I looking at? What is buy the sell off is a cool name, but what is it? And so there's two ways to see it. Automatically, TradeMachine will show you the open rules here and the close rules here. If for some reason you don't like that layout, you could always just scroll down and go to the technical open. So I'll just do that because it's a little bigger. So what is this trigger? It's when the RSI, the relative strength index, dips below 25. So you'll find if you go to Investopedia, various other websites, that RSI is a number that goes from 0 to 100. Most people will claim that a number over 70 means it's overbought. Okay? It means like, hey, this stock probably needs to rest. As you may well know with your experience in the market, things that are overbought can stay overbought for quite some time. So just because something crosses above a 70 RSI, I would not necessarily say it's bearish. Having said that, interestingly in finance, when things get oversold, they do tend to bounce. So oversold is usually considered below 30, but in our research, I actually found that below 25 was the real trigger. So maybe you would consider it like very, very oversold. So this trigger says, all right, I want to wait until RSI in a certain stock is below 25. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I also want the stock on the day to be down. It says down 0% or more. That means it can be down a penny. It can be down $37. It doesn't matter. I want it to be oversold and down on the day. Okay, so this is a very contrarian trigger because we're going to look to get bullish in this environment when this happens. And the stock is oversold and it's down on the day. And the last thing we do, possibly the most important, is that we're using our artificial intelligence. This is one of, we have two. This is one of the pieces that looks at return distribution characteristics, something called kurtosis or tailoredness. I'll show you how to learn about that in a very short video. I don't want to go over it too thoroughly here, but if you're interested, you can always just click learn more about kurtosis, right? It's right here. I'll click it, and here you go. It'll open an Investopedia page that will not teach you about our AI, which I'll show you in a different place. But this is the opening trigger. If a stock has a 25 RSI or lower, if it's also down on the day, and if this piece of AI is above zero, TradeMachine is looking to get long. In other words, it is looking for a contrarian signal. Stock is falling apart, and we're saying it's fallen apart too much. There also happens to be a closing rule for this. You can go to technical close. And it says, okay, if the RSI comes back above 40, we're out. If the RSI is below 25, which is when we open it, and the RSI gets above 40, by virtue of the way RSI is calculated, it's basically a guarantee the stock is up. Okay, so since this is a bullish speculation, if the stock rises to a certain level, we're good. We'll get out and take our profits. That's the technical close. Okay. And certainly if you want to learn more about RSI, you can always click on it. It will take you to a Fidelity website. Okay. So we try to keep our help articles in certain areas. If they've already been written, we just go to trusted sources. Okay, so that's what this thing does. That's when it triggers. But well, what is the trade? What is the trade? So you can see that it's a custom strategy. So all you have to do is click edit. And here's what it is. You're going to get long and at the money call, 50 deltas at the money, with 60 days to expiration. So this is a 2-month option, going to get long that. But you're also going to get short and out of the money call that expires in 30 days. Okay. And in totality, you close this trade. If we don't hit our technical close, which is that the RSI goes above 40, we close everything when this option expires. Okay, so this is actually not a 60-day trade. It is at a maximum a 30-day trade. Probably shorter if the RSI comes back, if the stock recovers, but if the stock does not recover, we're out at 30 days. Okay, so because we're buying a call and selling a call, it's a call spread. And because the calendar, the expirations are different, 60 and 30, it's called the calendar spread. So it's a call calendar spread. And because the strike prices are different, it's called the diagonal. So if you're wondering where they came out with the name, call diagonal, a call diagonal time spread, this is why. You don't actually have to know that. You don't have to understand the nomenclature. That's the name. That's what it is. Okay. All right. So now we understand when this happens, when it closes, two closing rules. Either the RSI goes above 40 or it's been 30 days, or this option expires, I should say. Okay. So that's when you enter. That's when you exit. This is what you enter and what you exit. Many people would call this the plan. The plan is when the stock does XYZ, I'm going to open this trade. And once this trade is open, I'm going to close this trade when ABC happens. Okay, this is the plan. Great. Now, with all of that, when does this work? In which stocks does this work? So you can go to portfolios, and now in TradeMachine, every member has all of these portfolios, a long list of them. I'm going to start with the NASDAQ 100. If you're a platinum member, which means you're an annual member, you can test up to 200 symbols at once. If you're not annual, this will stop at 50 symbols and you'll get a warning. It'll say, hey, here's how 50 symbols did, but just so you know, there's another 50 you have to test. So I'm going to let this go. Also, if you're an annual member, you're going to get these kind of speeds. We've increased the speed 5 to 50x. Okay, it did it. So what I've done is I said, okay, there's this strategy, this buy the sell-off strategy, this thing that happens when RSI dips below 25 and the stock is down on the day, and our AI says the kurtosis is above 0. Well, what happened? Well, over the last 3 years, in totality, this is what's happened. It's a 64% win rate. So that's 53 wins on 30 losses. And the average 1 month trade or less, right? Either the stock goes through the stock makes RSI go above 40, so you're out, or you just waited the full 30 days and you, with the short option expiring, and you're out. That's 40% per week when this happens. You'll also notice over 3 years and 100 companies, this has only happened a total of 83 times, right? 53 wins and 30 losses. So it doesn't happen that often, right? Just something to be aware of. This kind of like violent selling in a particular name with the crossover of our AI showing that actually there's upside, it isn't very frequent. All right, so now that I've seen this, you say, okay, well, how does this help me, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort this whole list by the average trade return. I'm just going to click it. I'm going to go through the ones that look good, and I'm going to add them to alerts. So AZN, Airbnb. Hold on, I think I'm going to sneeze. There is a chance I'm going to sneeze. Okay, not yet. And then you can go down the list and add the ones you like. Keep in mind, these are very few trades, right? So we want to be cautious. When you're done with the ones you like, okay, actually, you know what? I could actually sort this by the number of wins. That might be a different way to do it. Let's do that. Oops. Okay. Let's make sure that the return is positive and the number of wins. So that we want at least 2 wins. All right, that's good for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 companies. Their average returns are anywhere from 26% in a week up to 190% in a week over the last 3 years. I'm just going to click add alert. Notice it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 companies. I'm going to add the alerts. You'll notice it's exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tickers. The technicals are already set for you. Remember, the RSI is below 25. The stock on the day is down. and our AI measurement of tailedness over the last year is positive. I actually write myself a note by the sell-off. You can put your phone number in if you want. I won't do that because then I'll get 6,000 phone calls. Add alert. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 alerts have been added to my TradeMachine. So now I'm automatically, without doing anything, I'm out working, I'm working out, I'm eating, I'm doing yard work, I'm having a chit chat with friends, I'm watching the game. If it's during the day, I'm going to get told, hey, this thing happened. But that was only with technology companies. And we shouldn't be so limited. Let's not be so limited. I'm going to go back to financials. One thing I want to do is I want to maintain this. I want to compare how this does versus other sectors. Okay, so I'm just going to put a check mark here so you know I'm not fudging the numbers, right? That's this. This is tech. These are the Qs. Q. Okay, I'm going to move this to the side. Now I'm just, as easy as this is, I'm just going to go ahead and say, okay, well, let's try financials. And off it goes. Yeah.
While that's running, you said average trade percent was per week. Did you mean per week?
Per month, pardon me, per month.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a 1 month trade.
Thank you.
Yeah. Max is my conscience. So yeah. So this trade is a 1 month trade or shorter. Okay. So here's the XLF, which is the financials ETF. Now you'll see in financials, this doesn't work as well. I don't really care that much about the win rate, but on average, this is a loser. This is kind of like commissions. This doesn't work. So what does that mean? That means for some reason in tech stocks, when they get really sold off, there's a natural bid. Right? People are naturally like, okay, this is too much, I'm getting in. For financials, that bid, that natural thing that says, okay, things are getting really bad, it's time to get long. It's not there. It doesn't work for financials. And we figure that out very easily. I just use a drop-down menu. This is, even though last week we saw a spread that worked. And remember, that spread does well if the stock goes down a little or goes up. It just can't go down a lot. That worked great in financials. This trade is very specific, though. This trade says the stock has to go up for this to win. And no, this doesn't work in financials. Right? So something we're learning, I'm not adding trades, but I'm looking at saying, okay, so financials behave differently than tech. All right. Now I'm going to go to healthcare. Again, these are all built in. This is all for you. You can add as many as you like, but when you log into TradeMachine, this is here for you. Let's do healthcare. Oh, I think I made a mistake, guys. I'm sorry. I took out the technical close. Let's do XLF. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. So remember, this strategy has a technical close. So I apologize. Maybe my thesis on financials was wrong. Let's see. I apologize. We have to make sure that we have that closing rule. So let's let financials run. It's 73 tickers, I think. And then I'll compare it to how the QQQ did. My guess is it actually will work, but my guess is it won't work as well. I think there is, my hypothesis is there is a bid in financials, just not as strong. Yes, there you go. So the win rates are roughly the same. 65.7 and 64 are roughly the same. Okay. But look at the average trade per month, 40% versus 12%. So this is actually what I expected. So there is a natural bid in financials. It's just not as strong. So do I like this? Yeah, that's still okay. I'll take a 13% trade winner on the month. That's fine with me. But I'll also note it's more abrupt in financials. And the way I would do this again is I would go to average trade return. Actually, let's go to wins. And SPGI, BLK, Visa, and MasterCard. I love doing Visa and MasterCard with this. I just have a lot of confidence that there's a natural bid in those companies, right? Then FLT. So here's 5 more that I could add. So I think we added 7 for tech stocks. I was a little choosy. I'm going to add 5 for financials, in particular Visa and MasterCard. They behave sort of like tech stocks, and you can see, even though overall the average trade was 12.7, look at these guys, 36.4 and 28.3. That's much more tech-like. So I'm going to add these these 5 alerts. I'm going to give myself a note again by the sell-off, but you know what? Since these are financials and I'm not super familiar with them, I'm just going to, just in parentheses for myself, these are financials. So when I get this email, I'm going to say, oh, okay. This is a buy the sell-off for financials. Okay, so we've now added 12 trades together. And now I want to go to healthcare. And remember, this is our proxy with tech. And I really like trading the healthcare sector. All right. So let's let it happen. This is using the XLV ETF, which is what people call one of the spiders, one of the ETFs that BlackRock is running. It's basically sectors of the S&P 500. These are all members of the S&P 500. Okay, exactly what I expected. So the win rate's again a little higher. I'm not sure we can say that's so much better. The average trade is 27% versus 41% for tech, but significantly higher than financials, which was 12%, right? So we're actually learning as we're doing this. We're like, wow, which companies have a really strong bid? Like stocks are getting hit really hard. Remember, the NASDAQ 100 is large companies, right? So I'm not talking about microcaps. Relatively large tech stocks, when they're getting smashed in general, yeah, that's a trade. In financials, in general, when they're getting smashed, yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Nowhere near as strong as tech. It's okay. And then in healthcare, I would say this per month is very, very good. Granted, not as good as tech, but these are extraordinarily strong results. We should be so fortunate to make 27% a month in our lives, right? So this now opens our eyes to another group of companies that appear to have a very strong bid when things get hit. And you'll see which companies are doing well, right? It's companies like Eli Lilly and J&J and Pfizer, right? Companies that we would imagine this would happen in. Abbott Labs, right? Bristol Myers. This isn't such a surprise. So I'm going to, again, sort by average. Actually, I'll sort by wins. Okay. I'm going to skip Illumina. I don't love the 12.7%. This is Cigna. Sorry. So I'll check Cigna. Don't know what OGN is. I would have to do some research. It looks like this is a 2-win, 2-loss one. I'm going to skip that. ISRG for sure, one of my favorites. Dexcom, HSIC. I'm going to skip CTLT. Abbott Labs for sure. And even though this only has one trade, I like the megas. So I like Bristol Myers and I like Pfizer. And I know it's only one trade. You can hardly put so much emphasis on that. The reason I like, and J&J, the reason I like that is that you say, which companies have a natural bid? It's going to be the companies that have large institutional ownership. Well, which companies have large institutional ownership? Mega caps, Bristol Myers, Pfizer, J&J, right? Abbott Labs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is there anything else down here that really I'll do? Well, Eli Lilly, the results aren't that good. Oops. I'm okay with Biogen. Actually, no, I'm not. All right, that's enough for me. That's 7 or yeah, 7. So I'm going to add these 2 alerts. And the same thing here with my note. Even though I'm gonna write down what the strategy is. Sell off. Oops. I'm gonna note again, since I'm much more familiar with tech, that this is healthcare, just for me. And I'm gonna add the alerts. And apparently, healthcare has an L in it. All right. So I think we've looked at something like 18 trades that we've added to our alerts. So that is the end of the session today for the demonstration. We're going to go to Q&A. Don't you worry, we're going to go to Q&A and talk about how to reach max every day. But I just wanted to introduce again, I'm going to go back to the slideshow, kind of show you that I did what I said I would do. It's reinforcing. I shouldn't have closed the PowerPoint. I apologize for that, but I'll bring it up. Okay. So if you remember, I said this, other than disclaimers, which still hold. I said last session, we looked at something called spread the sell off, which was much more complex. 3 legs. It was a ratio spread. We looked at tech and financials. And I said, this session, we're going to do this. We're going to look at buy the sell off. This was plus AI as well, also, by the way. And we looked at tech, financials, and healthcare. And what did we learn? Like, what did we learn? We learned that tech performs the best. We learned that financials perform the least. So there's the least of this like really strong bid, but still worthwhile in some companies. And healthcare was really strong too. So these aren't a lot of back tests. The reason I feel comfortable with them is because I start with the sector at a whole. I have to see the sector at a whole look good, right? That's very important to me. So I'll show you what I mean. Let's see if I can pull that up. Yeah, right there. Right. So this is what I mean by the sector at a whole. This was the NASDAQ 100 as a whole. And if you remember the XLV, sorry, the healthcare was around 27%. Sorry, I know it looks like I'm writing with my feet. This is with my mouse, so pardon me. So when the industry as a whole does this well, then I'm okay plucking some of the winners out. If the industry as a whole doesn't look good, if I run it across a sector and these numbers aren't good, I don't care if there are ones below that do well, just so you know. Let's say I got one that was like negative 5%. And then I said, oh no, but 5 perform well. No, I'm out. I'm out. My process starts with it doing well across the large swath. If and only if that happens, then I am willing to look at the best of the best. But I am not willing to look if the entire industry doesn't do well, because that kind of feels like luck, right? What this is saying, what these numbers are saying is that these industries, healthcare and tech, have a bid in general. Now, let's find the companies which have the strongest bid. Okay, so that's it. I told you I wouldn't do too much of a slideshow. All right, that is it for my demonstration. Now we'll go to live Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll let, stop share. I will let, I'll show my ugly mug up on the face, and Max, you can join as well. And Max, you can go ahead and answer the Q&A. I'll just be here to listen. I think you're muted. Yeah, you're muted, Max.
I give my best answers when I'm muted.
Yeah, don't we all?
All right, there's one question in Q&A, so let's look at that first, and then we'll go back to the chat. Thank you, Ophir, for empowering us with the nuance. Can you see my screen? Oh, you can see my face.
I can see your
Thank
face.
you, Ophir, for empowering us with the nuances of options. Is there any place that I can refer to trade neutral trades with undefined risk? So I'm not sure, but I would suggest looking in the Learn tab of TradeMachine to start. And
You
I
can
would,
also look in the Max. You can also look in the Pro Scanner. We have some trades which are like long or short strangles. A short or straddle. A short straddle is undefined risk if you really want it,
right.
and that is neutral. You
Yeah,
basically don't want the stock to move,
yeah, yeah.
but not my favorite strategy.
Not my favorite strategy either. And you can always come visit me in community and we can text back and forth and talk about any specific examples that you may have or strategies like the long technical strangle.
Why don't you do that? So why don't you share your screen, Max, and show them how to get in contact with you? And I'll stop sharing my video. I'll get out of the way.
All right. Let's see if my practice pays off. Share sound just in case and share. Okay. Now, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, I see community. Why don't you go to TradeMachine and show how you get there, and then you can do that.
All right. Um,
Yep, right
I
there.
got it. I got it. I got it. Okay. So we're in TradeMachine and we're on the Today tab. And very easy. The last, across the top row, the last choice is community. You click on it and it will take you to the sign-in, which is just, this is our code of conduct. We are all very nice people. We talk about trading and only trading, and we do not say anything negative about anyone else. And we agree to the code of conduct. And this looks like the newer version that is still in testing.
Yeah, you can go to the old one.
So I'm going to go to, this is how I get there. I go to down to notification settings. I click on TradeMachine, and then I go home.
Okay, you guys don't have to do what he just did.
Right. And now we're back in regular community, and my ID is Chat Uncle Pops.
And you'll note the green check just so you know, you're like, oh, that's the right guy.
Right. I used to be just Uncle Pops, but when Ophir introduced the AI component of all these alerts, I became Chat Uncle Pops. Right.
So
So
anytime, so show them how they can message you and get your attention. So just write one to yourself at the top.
it's at chat. A box will come up, and you just click on it, and then you know that's who will receive a notification. Hey, somebody just mentioned Chat Uncle Pop, and I'll know to go look if I'm not currently looking up and down the columns of posts.
Yeah. So then you just write your question and he'll get back to you. That's it. So you have live help every trading day. He's not there all day, but he's there in the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And my guess is he's there more often than he thinks he would be. So he's there. So you can always reach out to him. Max, I forgot to introduce you. Max is actually a former market maker, a commodity option market maker. It was in particular in sugar options, I think. Is that right? Yeah.
That's correct. They had the
He-
best. They had the best floor trading hours.
right. That's right.
10
That's
a.m. to 2 p.m.
That's right. Max is very discerning. Oh, this is the easiest. These are the best hours. And he did it for, I believe it was 19 years, and he finished up after consolidation of the exchanges. It ended up being called the New York Board of Trade. But Max is not only a gentleman and an intellect, but he's also a former option market maker. So when you're and not only is he a trade machine expert, sure, but when you're asking him, you're talking to a former professional trader. So feel free to ask him questions. We will do these things, and he's going to get to questions right now live, but you don't have to wait for Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Max is here for you. All right, let's do the actual Q&A now.
All right.
And I'll show my face. You can show your face. You can stop sharing your screen. I think it's always nice for people to see who they're talking to.
All right. Don't give me too many things to do now.
Sorry.
Stop. Is pause share, stop share?
Sure.
Okay. So it's been paused. Now, how do I activate my face?
You're on.
Okay. Even better.
Hold on. It didn't stop your share. So I'll share and then I'll turn off sharing.
Oh, okay, cool. I couldn't do anything with my hair today, so I had to wear my New York Giants cap. All right, so let's go to the top of the chat. Hello to everyone from around the world. Thank you, John, for helping correct Ophir with a week versus 30 days or less. Would be great to search through the whole S&P 500 sector, the whole S&P 500 instead of doing each sector.
It's true. So the right now TradeMachine platinum members have 200 tickers at once. The S&P 500 is obviously 500 tickers, so it's going to be better to do that. I'll say two things. First of all, it takes a lot of computing power to just run the S&P 500. But I would also say, I'm trying to educate as I empower you. And it's not, I didn't put the sectors just because I didn't want to do 500 tickers. It's important that you check how each sector does overall. Remember that top line? If and only if it works in that sector broadly, then go ahead and find the best performers. If I were just, and if it doesn't work across the sector, it's up to you. I'm not giving advice, but I would skip it because then it feels like the winners are just kind of luck. And if I just gave you the S&P 500, well, how would you know? How would you know? You would skip that first step, which says, hold on, does this work in the sector in general? Then find the best ones. So it's not just because I didn't want to give 500 tickers and incur the cost of compute. That's relatively trivial. It's because I really want to guide you guys into a successful trading career. I'm not terribly interested in how you do this month, this week, this month. I'm really not even terribly interested in how you do in the next quarter. What I am terribly interested in is how you do for the long arc of your career. Where are you in 10 years? And if you want to be where you want to be in 10 years, it's probably going to be harder than you think. That's the bad news. The good news is if you put in the effort, it's going to be more satisfying than you think. But if you form bad habits, like just looking across the S&P 500, you're not going to make it. And it's not going to be for lack of effort. You're going to try really hard. It's not going to work. You got to look at successful sectors and then look at the best performers. This is the way it's done. You don't have to do it my way. But I'm telling you, this is my way. Up to you.
Your way has a proven track record. Okay. Dan Noble and others have been asking about these recordings of the Zooms, and have they been sent out to any of the TradeMachine community? I don't think they have.
You can request it if you're present. We don't send it out to everyone. We want people present in order to receive it. Remember, you say, well, that's not fair because I can't make it Tuesdays and Thursdays, but that's okay. You have Max live every day, right? You have Max. We're trying to make it such that we have participation, if possible, in these live events, because believe it or not, I'm not terribly interested in answering the question for you. What I'm interested in is hearing your question, because I promise you 100 other people have that question. And I want them to hear it live.
Okay. Marcus is reaffirming that we learned today that we can check these portfolios ourselves, as well as creating our own portfolios. I, for example, have one portfolio that just contains what I consider liquid stocks and stocks that I'm very interested in. And I use that a lot of times across different strategies. All right, Jay, Delta 50 call for diagonal. Should we go deep in the money, greater than 50%? I've done a couple of tests with in the money rather than at the money, and my recollection is the results were not as good. I'm sure Ophir has a thought on this subject.
I mean, my overarching thought is try it yourself.
Okay.
Please remember that while I try to provide convenience, portfolios, strategies that are back tested, my offering of convenience is in no way intended to reduce your autonomy. I'm just trying to make it easier. I'm not saying you don't have autonomy. You have your own agency. You can take that strategy and edit it, change it from a 50 delta to a 70 delta. Please, by all means. That's the goal of TradeMachine. Some people have the time to do that, and I encourage it.
Okay. Is IV built into the algorithm of any of the qualifiers? And if so, which one? How much weight is allocated to IV? Now, I know we have an overall VIX indicator where you can specify VIX over a number, VIX under a number, VIX in a range, I do believe.
We don't have IV. We used to get it from SIBO, and then they turned it off. So we don't have IV in there, but that's why you'll see. So, my mantra is options trading is volatility trading, whether you mean it to be or not. So you might as well mean it. The way around that is to spread. An option can only be hedged by another option. It doesn't matter what the vol is. An option can only be hedged by another option. And so everything, nearly everything you'll see here, and certainly everything that Max and I will go over on these live sessions, which will be ongoing, they're going to be spreads. And when you're spreading, you're alleviating the need to focus so much on implied volatility because they're hedging each other. And now, is that true all the time? No, it's not true all the time. Obviously, a front month can have explosive vol, the back month can have less. Fine. Or it's actually vice versa where it gets a little weird. But for now, no. We're looking to find a proper data vendor, but it's hard to find good data. IV is not just a number that you pluck out of the air. The implied volatility comes from the model you're using to price the options. It's not a triviality. It's not a triviality. Jason, our CTO, who built TradeMachine, is kind of next level at that. And he'd have to build us an IV index, which is a major undertaking. So we can't just pluck it out. I know you'll probably see data vendors out there that sell IV. Probably, I'm not casting aspersions. Probably utter garbage. You need to be near PhD level in order to do this right. Some might say you need to be near Nobel Prize winning level because it got 2 Nobel Prizes.
Okay. With VIX so low, are finding selling put trades are still working at this time? I'm going to give you my brief answer, and then Ophir will opine us. I don't like selling just an option, especially in a low VIX or IV environment, the IV of the stock itself. I would definitely spread it off. I do know several members of the community who are still selling puts and put spreads in this low IV environment and doing it very successfully. You come to community, you'll see what they're trading, and they're repeating their trades because the stocks that they're selling puts and put spreads in are either staying where they are or moving up the curve. Ophir?
Yeah.
Please.
So in my experience, and you can look at it very clearly. Generally, the best time to sell vol is when the VIX is low. And generally, the best time to buy vol is when the VIX is high. I know that makes no sense. There is actually, okay, there's a sweet spot. VIX between 17 and 22-ish is when you want to buy vol, generally. VIX above that, you want to be a seller of vol. VIX below 17 or 16, you want to be a seller of vol also. There's this very small window, like the 17 to 16 to 17 to 21, 22, where buying vol works broadly. Like if you were to look at your book, your portfolio, you'd be long Vega. So it's just one of those things that low vol tends to lead to low vol. Now, do we eventually get out of the low vol regime? Yes. And does it tend to happen on a big whoa? Yes, it does. Of course. But in general, a low lazy VIX, it's selling time.
Okay. Max, will you even help someone new to options make first trades? I'm there to help everybody. And the newer and the less experienced the user, the more time I'm happy to spend with them. But just keep in mind, I'm not making trades that TradeMachine is responsible for. I'm going to help you so you arrive at a trade that you want to take. I may tell you what trade I'm taking, but that's my personal trade. It's my personal analysis.
Can you adjust your camera a little, Max? We're getting like half your face. Well, you
Well,
can also.
that's
Can
the
you?
best part of me.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you.
All right,
Excellent.
sorry about that. I
That's
have
good.
to lean into the screen as I'm reading these questions.
Oh, that's good.
All right. Yeah, so I'm happy to help anyone and everyone. If you miss filling a today trade, is there a time frame that the trade is still viable? I will look the next morning, and if conditions still hold, because these are daily, all the data is gathered on a daily basis. We take the trades most of the time between 3:30 and 4 p.m., the end of the trading day. So the beginning of the next trading day, if the technical open conditions are still holding, and I'm really interested in a trade, I will try and get a fill the next morning. Is it true that the outcomes for a sector results will change over time? Yes. Any alert, it is possible that the results will change over time. That's why the first thing I do when I get an alert and I load it up in the back test is I click on 3-year test results. And that will include 3 years from today's date back. And I make sure that it's still giving us positive results. You have to do that. Anything you want to add, Ophir? Or should
No,
I just,
that's
okay,
fine.
all right. I'll keep going. Feel free to interrupt. Not that you're interrupting. I really love the sector breakdown, guys. Thank you, Ophir. I
You're
traded in the
welcome.
option pit from 1982 to 1992. My badge was DAG 632. DAG 632. I started in March of 1993. My badge was MAX 5102. I'm sorry, we did not overlap. You probably had more fun than I did.
Yeah.
1982.
The amount of fun in open outcry is
Oh,
linearly going down.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've heard a number of stories, the
Yeah.
best of which is there was such lax overview compliance of trading in the beginning of options that if a floor broker over the phone received an order that was so favorable, he or she just crossed it
Ugh.
with themselves,
Oh, that's bullshit. Yeah.
and then an hour later the print would go up and
Yeah.
people would
Everyone's
start
like,
screaming,
what happened? That was my
trade
market. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
traded that at 52. I'm 57,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I had there was once a giant order. It was in 2008, and a broker, a really 320-pound broker, a huge guy. His name, I don't want to say his name. He's a giant. It's like 6'4", 320. Very loud voice, annoyingly loud. He walked into the middle of the pit, very unassumingly, almost tiptoed. And this is his order. I got an order for a countrywide. I need to cross 3,000. He's like, what was that?
Yeah.
I need to cross over 4,000. And so a trader I was with said, oh, I almost said his name. Let's just call him John. He said, John, what did you just say? And he said it out loud, and then the crowd crossed it. But he was trying to do the same. He's trying to do the same thing. Just kind of like, oh, I announced it. He's like, no, you didn't. It
Yeah.
was a good trade. Made $20,000 in about 2 minutes.
Did you guys have did you guys have like a floor committee that tried to keep it even and
Yeah, we had
everybody
an
playing by
oboe.
the rules?
An oboe, yeah. An oboe is an order book official, just for those of you who don't know. And so they're kind of the police.
Yeah,
We had an oboe. He was actually short. He was 5'4", but no one messed with him. He was a bull. He was a
yeah.
bull. Yeah.
We had a committee, a
Okay.
floor committee it was called, with the right to fine people up to a certain amount of money if they broke the
We
rules.
just had an oboe, and his where he was judge, jury, and execution.
There you go. How best to monitor RSI?
All right, why don't you share your screen? I'll do it. It's okay. Here, I'll show you guys how to do it in TradeMachine. So, share screen. This is TradeMachine. You go to the Create tab. You go to Show Pivot Points, and here's RSI. The two RSIs. Okay.
Right. And what you can also do if you're interested in it when it's at an extreme for a certain stock, you can create an alert that says for Amazon, when the RSI 14 day goes over 70, send me an alert. And you can do it on the other side as well.
I see that 14-day RSI is not computing, so let me fix that.
I'm sorry.
Nothing. I'm sending a bug in.
Oh, are you going to show us something or shall I continue?
No. Keep going. Sorry.
Okay.
We have 9 more minutes, and I think you can get through the questions. So yeah, go for it.
Okay. Well, in the chat, I have no idea how many more questions there are. I'm going. And whatever questions we don't answer, I'll
Just five
answer in
more.
community.
That's right.
Are you going to highlight the current strongest sectors and their 3 to 5 leaders, or do we have to do that ourselves?
Well, just to be clear, I did that for 3 sectors for you just now. So there's another 7 or 8 sectors or whatever. That's on you. You also don't have to do more than I just showed if you don't want to, but you guys remember, I have a very strong, you have to agree with me, I have a very strong belief system. To be a successful trader, you need 3 things: process, which some people call a plan. And that just means, what do I trade? When do I open it? When do I close it? Now you should think, if I have a process, I'm a good trader, but it's not, because we're humans. So number 2 is patience, right? Process, then patience. And patience, 2 parts of patience. One is it's going to be harder than you think it will be. But 2 is, because it's harder than you think it will be, it's going to be more satisfying than you think it will be. And the third thing is effort. I always say in TradeMachine, I can the process part, the plan part, we can basically do for you, right? But I just did it, right? The patience part is very personal. I'm not a patient man. It took me a long time and it cost me a lot of money to learn patience. Okay? But that's personal. Some people are instantly patient. The effort thing, I can't do that for you. I can't. I can make it easier. TradeMachine makes it easier, but I can't put in the effort.
Right. So what I was going to do after this Zoom, probably not today because it's all, it'll be close to 3 o'clock and I have to get back to community as well as pay attention to my own option positions. Is I was going to pick one of the sectors and do the back test in community and share that with the community. So anybody here who wants to see that, it'll be in community sometime tomorrow. All right. What about SPX? I'm new to TradeMachine, but I also use option Omega is still not available in TradeMachine to backtest. I think SPX is available in TradeMachine to
It is.
backtest.
It is,
I
as
do
is
it all the
SPY.
time.
SPX and SPY are both in there. Absolutely.
Yeah. SPX, SPY, NDX, QQQ, IWM, and RUT are all available for backtesting.
I would use SPY, just so you guys know. But
You always use,
I use SPY. I like less expensive options.
all right.
I don't like eating up my haircut.
It's I used to only do SPY, but then I did both once and they were different results. They weren't,
Yeah. SPX has more XPX has wider strikes.
yeah. So I do them both now when I'm interested in those kind of trades. Picking the right delta to backtest has always been a confusing decision right before market close. How does the best test choose between the actual 45 or 35 delta on a 40 delta backtest?
It chooses the one that's closest to it, and otherwise, I think it chooses the one that's larger.
So it'll go 45 over 35 for a 40 delta.
It depends if it's a spread. If it's a spread, then the rules change. But there shouldn't be some. The idea that it would be exactly 40 is almost impossible.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And to be fair, you should look at them both. I mean,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
45 you might think that's a better trade, or the
yeah, yeah.
35 you might think is a
100%.
better trade.
At that point, you kind of have carte blanche. You're like, I'll take the 35.
To what extent is the expected move considered in any of the CML tools? And if considered, how is it used? I don't think it is directly used or considered.
No, so
I
just to be
think we
clear,
go by delta.
yeah, I think when you talk about expected move, I think people are talking about the at the money straddle. Just to be clear, this might sound like I'm being finicky, but I think it's important. It's not the expected move; it's the reflected move. The options market does not expect anything. The option market reflects the risk of something. It's a small difference, it sounds like, but it's really crucial to trading options, because if the market was expecting something, it would already be priced in.
Yeah,
If the
yeah.
market is reflecting risk, that's something else.
Yes, I agree with you 120%. But a lot of trading platforms out there today have what they call
Expected move.
expected move,
Yeah.
and it's I think they take the straddle, the 50 delta
Yeah.
straddle,
Yeah.
and then the next strike on either side, and then 20% of the one after
Right.
that, and they come up with an expected move for a day, a week, a month, whatever the expiration is.
If you're spreading options, you don't have to worry about it.
All right.
Spread your
I
options.
literally I literally traded, this is back to David Gelman. He traded the first sugar option in the 1982 pilot program. Were you there for David, were you there for the movie?
Two more
Trading
questions.
Places. They come to New York City. They trade in the orange juice pit. You got to tell us if you were there for the movie.
That's right.
If we practice, it gets easier, hopefully. Absolutely. The more you use it, the easier it gets.
Yeah, let me share my screen for a sec to address that question. So just to be clear, while I talked a lot, this is all we did. Oh, I want to stop that. I went to my save back tests. I picked a strategy. Doesn't matter which one. I happen to be using buy the sell-off with AI. So I chose the strategy. I let TradeMachine choose it. Great. I went to 3 years. And then I did that's it. It just doesn't get any easier than that. It's a drop-down menu. It's a drop-down menu and you're done. That's it.
All right, David, as I'm going out of order for a quick second, David replied, they asked us all to come down on a Saturday morning at 6 a.m., but I didn't. David, I'm sure you regret that decision today. You would have been in the movie. Would have been great. All right. What is my favorite trade setup? I like the pre-earning 14-day long call diagonal now with AI. That's my favorite. Ophir?
I have 4 favorites, which I shared them in the webinar. So spread the sell off with AI, buy the dip. So that's what we did last time. Buy the dip or buy the sell off, which we did today, right? Next time we're going to do the pre-earnings diagonal with AI. That's going to be a more bullish one. So now you have a preview of what's coming next. That's one. Fade the dip with AI, and I also like the bursts of volatility. But we're going to cover my 4 favorites.
Your burst of volatility is long strangled technical. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. All right.
I think that's it.
I think that's it. And it's 2:59.
Exactly. We did it exactly 15 minutes. Okay, guys. So I have 2 things to say to you or ask of you before we go. First of all, you're going to get an email. You're getting an email from us which asks you like questions about how today went. It's anonymous. We don't know who's answering it. So please answer honestly. It doesn't help us get better if you're just like, oh, you guys are awesome, blah, blah. I mean, if you think we're awesome, that's great. But like, if you think there's things we can do better, it really helps us. It's anonymous. I won't know that John Doe said something mean. We won't know. It's anonymous. Okay. It's a poll. It's not the email you get emails you a poll. We don't ask you personally. Okay. Please answer it. It really helps us, even if you hated it or if you loved it. And the second thing is, I know there's a lot of people here who were former TradeMachine members who are now saying, oh, wait a second, you guys are going to have this live help thing. Email support. You can get your old price on TradeMachine. Okay. We're willing to do that for you. This is a new version of what's happening right now. Okay. We're going to have Max. We're going to be with you. You have someone to help you. And the second thing is we have a huge upgrade coming soon. On the Today tab or on the Backtest tab, when something is live, listen to me, when something is live, we're not going to make you look up the deltas anymore. We're going to show you exactly the trade. We're going to show you exactly the trade. I have a picture of it. If you guys want to hold on 1 second, I'll email it to myself. It's on my phone, of course. Let me make sure
While you're doing that, can I just add that not only are you going to be seeing the trade with the actual deltas, but you're also going to know towards the end of the day if the alert is still valid. Right? Is that still in the plans of you?
Absolutely.
All right.
So I'm going to share this with myself. Hold on 1 second.
All right. And I think Ophir said earlier today, as far as getting a copy of the recording, send an email to support@cmlviz.com and tell them you were here at the session. And I guess the company is going to provide a copy of the recording. And I think the recording will probably be available starting tomorrow, if not later today. And I also want to say, well, Ophir is getting that picture ready, that it looks like Amanda Kelly, the head of the support group at CML, was here today, and she's incredible. She's very responsive, and she does a great job. And I just want to say that on the recording.
I appreciate that. Okay, guys, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to come to TradeMachine. If something's active, it'll say it's active, it's triggered now, and it will actually tell you the options to trade. You won't have to look it up anymore. And if it's not active, I'll show you what that's going to look like. So this is coming in about a month. Okay. So hold on one second. Let me get that image. I'm not supposed to be showing these, but I know the CEO. So, okay. Share this. All right. Let me get the image. Got it. Open up my desktop. Refresh my images. And here is what it will look like. Okay. You guys see this? Yeah. This is what it will look like if it's not active, right? So say, oh, this isn't active right now. Last time it triggered was November 6th. Okay. So that's how TradeMachine is going to look coming soon. So someone said, well, can you make it easier? We're getting there. We're getting there, right? It's going to look like this and this. Not active, it is active. And if it's active, you'll be able to see right there. Okay. This will also come in your alerts. So you know how I'm telling you guys set up alerts? In your email, it will say blah, 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 whatever you wanted, buy the sell off in this case. And it'll say, here's the trade. Okay. So we're making strides toward making this easier. It still takes your effort, but we're going to try and help. All right, guys, that's it for the day. We'll see you.
See you in community.
See Max in community every day. Please go there. Please tell people about it. For those of you that are former TradeMachine members, and you're like, wait a second, I get this twice a week and 5 days a week I get Max, and you put in portfolios and you put in that drop down of menu of back tests, and I'm going to see if it's triggered. If it's triggered, I'm going to see the options. Email support. It's time to rejoin because the price is going to go up once we add all that. Thanks, guys. Bye, guys.
Okay. Thank you, Ophir. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks, man.